The Euroformula Open Championship concludes its third meeting of the season here at MISANO World Circuit. Marco Simoncelli, a first visit for the Euroformula Open Championship to the Adriatic coast. We've had two races so far this weekend. It's time for the third and final race, and it's the second of our reverse grid races. And it's race 2 winner, Jesse Carrasquillo, who, by virtue of qualifying 6th yesterday, starts on reverse grid pole position. The Mexican standing on the top step of the podium for the first time in this championship this morning. We've had two different winners so far this weekend after Javier Herrera added his name to the winners list in race 1 yesterday. But the Mexican taking a 20-second time penalty after the race this morning, losing him his podium place because he stalled on the grid and then retook his grid position by passing other cars on the formation lap. We discussed it in the commentary box. We weren't sure if it was entirely legal, and it turns out it was not. Chris Stevens and George Morgan up here in the commentary box. 19 laps of racing to come. George, can we look past Carrasquillo? He looked in fine fettle this morning. Maybe Famolaro on the front row of the grid can pose a challenge.
Quite possibly, Chris. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to MISANO, and it for the final time this weekend, having us marking our first appearance to this circuit. It certainly has blessed us with some phenomenal racing, and alluding to what you were saying earlier, Chris, the coming-of-age moment for Javier Herrera, taking his first win at the start of the weekend in race 1. Could not quite capture the same, though, especially after the penalty, meaning that he forfeited P3 come the end of race 2. Therefore, it went the way of Rui Hengye, and it would have been the second time that Rui Hengye in fact, wouldn't finish on the podium. Of course, the last time that occurred was Portimao race 2. But Carrasquillo, yes, with a great chance, starting on the front row and indeed pole position for this particular race, given the nature of the fact that he finished P6 for the reverse grid equation. Obviously, he was on the front row as well for a race 2 that we had earlier on today, which led to that first victory, and it's a long-awaited first victory as well. His pace, it has certainly been shown to be, electrifying. His best result, aside from that, was 3rd place back at Spa in race 2, but finally getting the win and breaking the duct. And hopefully, in his eyes, that will be the misfortune coming to an end. But anything can happen in the Euroformula. He will be alongside Alessandro Famolaro, who's also had his own fair share of success with a victory at Portimao in race 2 at the very start of the season's campaign. Just what is going to happen in terms of Rui Hengye? This time he starts from P5 with Javier Herrera alongside him. A mouth-watering prospect, Diego Della Torre and Everett Stack in the mix. Stack will be hoping he doesn't have a start like he had in race 2 earlier today in order to potentially fight for another podium or maybe even a race win himself.
Yeah, both races so far this weekend, we've had two stallers on the grid. It was Jan Koller and Diego Della Torre. Yesterday, Carrasquillo making his intentions very clear, going forward to P1. But yes, this morning, Everett Stack and Alessandro Famolaro really struggling off the line, and Stack having to fight his way back through. Famolaro tried to, but then he had a front right suspension failure in the middle of turn 10 that put him into the gravel trap. There is the Virginian, who lines up on the second row of the grid. Famolaro this time going from the front row, so it's another Motorpark and BVM battle up at the front of the field. Both of them race winners. Carrasquillo this morning, Famolaro back in Portimao.
Diego Della Torre, who obviously be hoping to come back with a bang, is very capable, achieving some promising results. Actually came into the weekend second in the championship. Obviously, we've seen results go elsewhere in the meantime, much like Rui Hengye's winning record of obviously clean sweeped the Spa-Francorchamps weekend. Very nearly did the same at Portimao if he had managed to capture race 2. Of course, Famolaro was the one to get that. It was 5th place that Rui Hengye finished. Here is Javier Herrera, youngest driver in the field, 16 years of age, and taking his first win at the start of the weekend in race 1. The reigning rookie champion in the F4 Central European Zone Championship. And in fact, that was his first foray into single-seaters. And of course, this season marking his first appearance at F3 level. Victor Dobransky, who started on pole position for race 2, could not quite see it through, but did show himself to be the leader for a large majority of the second race. He's got Jan Koller behind him, of course, being tutored by Roman Stanek, the Czechia former F2 driver, with Ricardo Miranda Baptista, who's also got Sergio Sette Camara in his corner as well. So it's going to be a tale of two drivers being tutored by former F2 talents that will be aligned on the same row. Divinandan starting from P10 will line up with Lorenzo Castillo in behind him. Of course, Castillo had a promising start earlier on. Obviously, he had to also mitigate his way through some of the stallers at the start of race 2, but just could not quite benefit in the long run of things as far as the race was concerned. And Neri Autosport's Aaron Farazano will be committing himself from the back of the grid, though he did gain a few places in the initial, eventually came into blows with Famolaro. They were exchanging places, and eventually that led to Famolaro's front right being removed from the chassis of the car.
Started from the pit lane, did Ferrazano this morning. Issues on that Neri Autosport car. Good to see that's all been cleared, and he can join us on the grid for the final race of the weekend here in the Euroformula Open Championship, as we conclude the first visit to this MISANO circuit. Story so far this weekend: Javier Herrera starting from pole position. Poor starts for Colla and Della Torre, but thankfully everybody was able to avoid them. Herrera with the whole shot into the first corner ahead of Rui Hengye, the championship leader, and Everett Stack, as the drivers who stalled tried to make their way back through the grid. Lorenzo Castillo making up places. Alessandro Famolaro challenging Everett Stack for a place on the podium, with Stack making a little mistake into Curva del Carro. Javier Herrera unchallenged at the head of the field. The young 16-year-old on top in the Euroformula Open Championship in race 1. Had to come from 6th position on the grid in race 2 and had to get around a slow-starting Alessandro Famolaro and indeed Everett Stack as well. But it was Victor Dobransky, another rookie-class driver, who, from reverse grid pole, led the majority of the race until Jesse Carrasquillo pounced in the closing stages of race 2. Javier Herrera battling for 2nd position. He would end up taking a 20-second time penalty after the race, but Carrasquillo becoming the 4th different winner of the season here in the Euroformula Open Championship in 2026. And going into this 3rd race of the weekend, 71 points the advantage for Rui Hengye, building off of a supreme first 2 meetings, but he's come under pressure. So 19 laps of racing to come, or 30 minutes, whichever we hit first, and it will be Motorpark versus BVM at the head of the field once again, as the grid has been cleared. Just the single mechanic with the umbrellas. Track temperature, as near as makes no difference, 50 degrees out there. These Pirelli tyres are going to be put to the test around the MISANO circuit on these Dallara 324 machines, powered by the Tom's prepared 1.6-litre turbocharged 3-cylinder engines. Here's how they line up. It is Jesse Carrasquillo from Team Motorpark and Alessandro Famolaro from BVM Racing, who line up on the front row of the grid. Apologies for the issues with the graphics. That'll continue to run through it. Second row of the grid is Everett Stack in the number 9 car, and Diego Della Torre in the 44 from 4th position. And then the championship leader, Rui Hengye, going from 5th position, and race 1 winner, Javier Herrera, from 6th. Then come all of our rookie class drivers, with Victor Dobransky in 7th position, Jan Colla in 8th, Caddy Baptista in 9th for Team Motorpark, concluding his wildcard weekend. Divinandan, Lorenzo Castillo, and Aaron Farazano for Neri Autosport, rounding out the 12-car grid. And George Morgan once again, Motorpark v BVM at the front of the field. Race 2 winner, Jesse Carrasquillo, starting from pole position. But Alessandro Famolaro also knows how to win in this championship.
Yeah, done it already this season as Famolaro, so hoping that he can once again return to the top. This, incidentally, could be the first time in a weekend that Rui Hengye doesn't collect a race win. Obviously, it's picked up 2 back at Portimao, clean sweep, as I said before, at Spa-Francorchamps. Did appear on the podium in race 2 earlier on today. But obviously, would love to taste the top step for at least one occasion here at MISANO.
Now, was that Rui Hengye who hasn't gotten away there on the formation lap? I believe it was. Now, we know the rule now. he has to start from the back of the grid, and indeed it was the 21 car, the championship leader, so he's now going to have to start this race from 12th position.
And all of a sudden, that fact that he hasn't yet taken a win at MISANO could be the first weekend where he doesn't collect a race win now.
Yeah, he hasn't looked in the dominant form he's been in the first two meetings of the season. Now, I mean, looking at his results, second and third so far this weekend. Oh, what a disaster, right? I mean, by Rui Hengye's very high standards, coming into this weekend, won 5 of the 6 races, but hasn't been on the top step so far this weekend, which is most unusual to see. And now is going to be starting last on the grid, assuming that everyone at Team Motorpark has paid attention to the Herrera debacle in race 2 and have told him, do not overtake the cars.
Well, we know that if he does, then he will be reprimanded with a penalty.
In fact, race control has even stepped in and put the message on the timing screen, car 21, stay in last position. So
there we go.
There's going to be no discrepancy about it whatsoever. Rui Hengye will start from last as he struggled to get the car away, potentially stalled at the start of the formation lap. By the time the last car gets past you, you are not allowed to retake your grid position. BVM Racing tried to argue that by saying, well, Aaron Ferrazzano was in the pit lane, but race control was having none of that. So it means that the championship could look slightly different in 19 laps time. Doesn't change anything up at the front of the field. Still, Jesse Carrasquillo, who will line up on pole position. Our race 2 winner, having started on the front row of the grid this morning, now lines up on pole position. Carrasquillo finally getting the monkey off his back this morning, bagging his first victory of the season. Something he's been threatening to do since the start of the season, but through one circumstance or another, it hasn't worked out for him. So it will be the yellow-trimmed black and red Motorpark car alongside the black and orange BVM Racing car of Alessandro Famolaro, the white nose tip on that car. There's Aaron Ferrazzano and Rui Hengye will line up at the back of the grid. So you see the gap in the grid where Rui Hengye was meant to start. So he starts from effectively the 13th grid spot. For one last time this weekend, it's Andiamo in MISANO. Green flag at the back of the field. Red lights on. We are racing in MISANO once again. Good start from Jesse Carrasquillo. Great stuff from Everett Stack and from Diego Della Torre as well as they go either side of Alessandro Famolaro. Diego Della Torre into second, but Stack coming around the outside, and it's the American who takes second place now. It's Motorpark 1, 2, and 3 as Famolaro gets squeezed out into the first corner. Carrasquillo from Stack, from Della Torre, from Famolaro, who right on board with the Venezuelan as he tries to take back one of those places down into turn 4, but lives to fight another day. He's got his teammate Javier Herrera right on his back bumper, and Rui Hengye trying to make up places as well from the back of the grid. Carrasquillo leading the way, though, as they head down into the Guecha corner for the first time. That was Rui Hengye with a big dive to the inside on Victor Dobransky going into turn 8. And making up a few more places there. Should be in about 8th or 9th position.
8th position, yes. Yeah, 8th place, had a nice jump. Obviously getting past Colin, Castillo and Ferrazzano at the very least, but still plenty of work to do. If you are Rui Hengye, Jesse Carrasquillo getting a perfect launch, as did Everett Stack, jumping 2 places right at the start of the race. Really promising start from Everett Stack with Herrera ahead of Baptista at the moment. Those are 2 BVM drivers, line astern at the moment, in 5th and 6th place, with Nandan making it 3 BVMs, line astern ahead of Rui Hengye as they now make their way through the final sector, and very soon they will march down through towards the start-finish line and get ready for a second lap. It's wheel-to-wheel. Rui Hengye just clipping the curb, and the car getting a little bit of airtime as he looks to close down on Divi Nandan in the luminous yellow-tipped white BVM car. Another look to the inside again from Rui Hengye as they dive through towards turn 1 and then weave through towards turn 2. Herrera with Baptista for company. There's a little gap forming between Famolaro and Herrera, around about 7/10 of a second, but Herrera trying to rein that straight back in. Divi Nandan, though, under pressure. You can just see Rui Hengye well, putting him under the cosh, putting him to the sword, a 10th between them as they made their way across the stripe. So he's just waiting for an opportunity in order to pounce. Here comes Stack, though, looking to try and take the race lead away from stable companion Carrasquillo, who holds the lead.
And remember that Everett Stack saved himself a set of tyres by only doing one run in qualifying. Now, we believe Carrasquillo is also on a new set of tyres for this race, so this is just pure pace you're seeing here between these two. And Everett Stack looking the most comfortable he's looked all season long in the wheel tracks of Jesse Carrasquillo. There has been a little bit of bad blood between these two in previous races. They came together at Spa with Carrasquillo's rear Pirelli getting sliced by the front wing of Everett Stack as Rui Hengye makes up more ground here. He's now passed Divi Nandan for 7th position, and indeed Victor Dobransky trying to make a move on the Indian driver there as well through that fast sequence of right-hand corners that culminates in the Curva del Carro. But Everett Stack only 0.3 of a second away from Carrasquillo, as we see Dobransky still behind Divi Nandan there, and Rui Hengye now breaking up that pack of BVM racing cars. It was 4 in a line. It's now 3 in a line, with yet separating Nandan and Caddy Baptista, who is rounding out his wildcard weekend. And, well, we were just saying Stack was looking pretty comfortable, but suddenly Carrasquillo manages to pull about 0.3 of a second in one sector.
Yep. Really strong run there from Carrasquillo just to build the gap. It's actually a fastest lap of the race from Carrasquillo too, with a 1:29.479. That's confirmed on the top of your screen, everybody. Diego Della Torre also coming back to the rear of Stack too at the same time too. We've got Herrera now digging a little deeper on the tail of his own teammate, Alessandro Famolaro, who is in 4th. The gap between he and Diego Della Torre now at 8/10. Della Torre does look fairly dangerous here. Start of this race, obviously cruising to the back of Everett Stack, trying to close down on the Virginian as they now make their way down the back straight out of Tremonto and through towards Corvone, in towards turn 11, and then sweeping around 12 and 13 before they then hit Carro Corner at 14. Carrasquillo, fastest lap has confirmed. Verrazano has just dropped down to P12. Castillo now 11th with Collar. Dobransky, who's currently 3rd in the rookie contingent, because Herrera leads the rookie class at this stage, with Baptista down in rookie P2, 6th place overall, as they now whip the tails out on the Dallara 324s, and they take the final corner to begin their next lap. It'll be 16 to go as they cross the line.
Della Torre with a little lock-up going into the Curva del Carro on that previous lap, as he got up to the back of Everett Stack's car. The lead gap between Carrasquillo and Stack now about a second, as Caddy Baptista comes under fire from Rui Hengye there on the inside at turn number 2, and now challenging towards turn 4, the very difficult traction zone out of the Curva del Rio. Rui Hengye on the recovery, remember, from the back of the grid after stalling on the formation lap. He is currently in 7th position, trying to break into the top 6 now and then get himself on the back of Javier Herrera and dive to the inside, going into the Gutcha corner. And that is now 6th position for Rui Hengye, right after he does the fastest lap of the race as well. So the raw pace still with the championship leader.
Now he's got a mission to close up the 1.5 second gap now that's been elongated due to his fight with Baptista. And that's to close down on Herrera, who we know is very quick over one single lap. Obviously, he's come a long way since the first round of the season at Portimao. So Mazzotti keen for him not to live in his head too much, and he's now since managed to take some of the pressure off the young man's shoulders and offer him a window of opportunity to improve in this championship, which has now obviously led to the victory. And of course, he managed to garner in race 1 this weekend. Of course, first tasted podium success back at Spa, did young Herrera. Currently leading the rookie class, and has now reined back in the delta against Famolaro here. 4/10 between the two of them, with Rui Hengye 1.8 seconds back, though. Yeah, will not get the benefit of slipstream here, so therefore does mean he's going to have to work extra hard in the corners to try and find speed and time where Herrera can't out there on the track, which is easier said than done, because certainly MISANO not Jer's best friend so far, despite him, you know, racing in the Italian F4 Championship, among other things. Herrera coming from the F4 Central European Zone, and also spending his time elsewhere in other F4 divisions, but not to the extent of his time that he did spend in F4 Ches. But now half a second behind Famolaro. Diego Della Torre second behind Stack still. And if anything, Stack has grown that gap, but he's also in a bit of no man's land, because Carrasquillo is kicking on, still holds the fastest lap of the race. And incidentally, the last lap that he did pull off is still the fastest lap, with the first sector on this lap also purple. So Carrasquedo not sticking around as now in comes Javier Herrera on stable companion Alessandro Famolaro. BBM drivers now going at it over that 4th place. Herrera denied, Famolaro not letting him go.
It's a battle over 4th position as they complete lap number 5 over the timing line. Della Torre in 3rd position, still with Famolaro and Herrera in close company. 3/4 of a second separates those 3 cars as Della Torre now 1.3 back from Everett Stack, who in turn is 1.6 back from Jesse Carrasquedo, who's 2/10 quicker than the chasing pack last time around. So Della Torre under pressure, Famolaro under pressure, and the Venezuelan getting very sideways out of turn 6 and onto the back straight, heading towards the Quercher corner, putting down all 270 horsepower from that turbocharged 3-cylinder engine. Out of turn 8 we go, and very wide there was Diego Della Torre, beyond the track limits. Starting to struggle now is the Mexican by the looks of it. A little look on the inside from Famolaro there, going into the braking zone at turn 10 through the kink of 9, but he will be hot on the heels of that Motorpark car in a prime place here for some slipstreaming as they go flat out through turn 11, the Curvone corner, flat through turn 12 as well, and look, to the inside he goes, trying to get the advantage when they get down into the Curva del Caro. Ends up running a little bit wide on the entry, but still manages to offset Della Torre a little bit, who goes wide on the exit of the corner, flat through the penultimate turn, and Famolaro is still just all over the back of Diego Della Torre, who still holds on to 3rd position for another lap, but he's certainly under big pressure here.
Yeah, absolutely right. Della Torre, I think, can count his lucky stars, but Famolaro wasn't able to open him up like a tin of beans. But nonetheless, now moving through onto the next lap, and he still reigns supreme in P3 for now. But for how much longer will he stay there? Because he's now seen the gap grow to 2.1 seconds to Everett Stack, which means he absolutely will not have any slipstream whatsoever, though it would have been obviously not necessarily on hand with him being over a second behind Everett Stack. Stack himself as well, also losing time, as now we see Herrera having a look up the inside of Famolaro, very close to the rear wheels of his own teammate there. The 2 BVMs very nearly meeting at Quercher, but no change in the order.
And arriving on the scene now is Rui Hengye from the back of the grid. He's now within 0.6 of a second of our race 1 winner, Javier Herrera. So they made their way through turns 11, 12 and 13. Such a fast part of the racetrack in these Formula 3 level machines. Down into the Curva del Caro, still Della Torre that leads this train of cars. It's now 2.5 seconds behind Everett Stack in 2nd place. Della Torre under a bit less pressure on this lap compared to the previous, as Famolaro drops back a little bit and Herrera puts a bit more pressure on his teammate. There you can see the gap growing between 2nd and 3rd placed cars. 12 to go now, and still Della Torre holding on to that podium spot. Alessandro Famolaro, podium finisher in race 1 earlier in the weekend, behind Rui Hengye and Javier Herrera. It's a double BVM podium for Giuseppe Mizzotti's team in race 1. Before it was all about Motorpark in race 2, after Herrera's 20-second time penalty that demoted him from 3rd to 10th. So down into turns 9 and 10 once again. Famolaro trying to line up Della Torre in front of him. We come back onto the part of the racetrack that we see a good bit of slipstream. We see the fastest speeds on the racetrack at around 215 kilometers an hour. But Famolaro not close enough, I don't think, to really mount a serious challenge. And through this fast section of the racetrack, I can't imagine how much the Pirellis are trying to cry when it is 50 degrees on the asphalt.
Yeah, I'd imagine it's probably likely shredding the Pirelli rubber right now, especially given the nature of some of the corners as well in that 3rd sector. Fastest up though nonetheless for Jesse Carrasquedo. Purple final sector of a 31.934, which incidentally in itself a couple of tenths quicker nearer the realm ahead of Everett Stack. In fact, the disparity between the two drivers all came pretty much within that final sector. So a game changer really for Carrasquedo. Diego de la Torre still under pressure here from Famolaro. So that's going to relieve a little bit of pressure on Famolaro a little bit, because obviously Herrera is going to be part of the queue. It's going to be that much difficult, though. One mistake here from Famolaro will open the door potentially for his own teammate to come in and potentially nab that P4 off him. Now watch the front two in the order: Korea around the middle sector and into very soon the latter sector as well. 11 laps to go. Carrasquedo still with the fastest lap, as we just said, after taking it that last time round. And Stack, who unfortunately has been unable to counteract it. Here comes de la Torre with another look from Famolaro. He's going to switch back, heading through the outset of Cavone and now down towards Caro. So they now look to go nose to tail again. The Venezuelan still unable to find the answer. Go, lock up though, coming in, and that very nearly close to contact between the two of them. That could have very easily ended in tears for both Famolaro and de la Torre. But just goes to show how desperate that Famolaro is to make the move, and now that's opened up a window of opportunity potentially for Herrera. Just look at that, skipping over the curb. Rui Hengye, 4 cars now, all in the midst of a big scrabble over this P3 as they head through turn 1. Rui Hengye around the outside, absolutely stellar. Had a brilliant run coming out of the final corner, owing to him making the move, and Herrera now has got to try and fight back, which he almost certainly will do as they dash through towards turn 3 out of turn 2, later through turn 4. Herrera returns the serve and back into 5th place.
See the lock up again from Famolaro, just looking up the inside front right tyre. Well avoided by both drivers, but getting punchy between Rui Hengye and Javier Herrera there. The Mexican not taking that line down at all. Back up into 5th position. There's your race leader, Jesse Carrasquedo, 1.9 clear of Everett Stack. And they are now 4 seconds clear of the battle for 3rd position, led by Diego de la Torre. Kelly Baptista is not far away from joining that train of cars either. Everett Stack running very nicely at the moment in 2nd position, and could be on course for his 4th podium finish of the season, his first of the weekend. Didn't quite show the pace we expected in race 1, and then of course coming from the rear of the field after stalling off the line in race 2. So de la Torre over the line for lap number 11, still in 3rd position, still hounded by Alessandro Famolaro and Javier Herrera and Rui Hengye, who has dropped off the back of Herrera ever so slightly since that last attempt, and it was a cracking move around the outside of the first corner if he were to make it stick. But we are coming up to half race distance now, that halfway through. Just over half race distance, I should say, sorry.
I think Jan Collis had a moment, because he lost out to Castillo and now he's just lost out to Ferrazano as well. So must be some issues for Jan Collis there somewhere.
Last lap was a 31-1. Quite a few seconds off the pace, so they may be getting shuffled out a little bit further down the field. Yeah, rejoin the P3 battle. Back with Diego de la Torre, the Mexican, aligned with Famolaro, Herrera, Rui Hengye, Miranda Baptista with every opportunity to try and close that 1.4 second gap back. Rui Hengye, though, still 1.2 behind now against Herrera. So Herrera now being given clairvoyance to attack his own teammate once again. Diego de la Torre again taking that wider line as opposed to what Famolaro did. Coming through the final corners as now they sweep through the Misano bend at turn 16. Back down the long straights and then through towards turn 1. Again, Famolaro looking to dig deeper and get a little closer again. Still no avenue for the move against de la Torre. Herrera waiting to see whether he can pounce to take any opportunity of these two dancing around the Adriatic circuit as they now sweep through, and then later turn 4 and 5 will open up, and then eventually they'll take the run through towards Tremonto out of Quecha corner. It's 8 laps left. We are at the, well, we're beyond the halfway point in this final race of the weekend. Everett Stack losing a little bit more time to Carrasquedo now. It's 2.1, was 2 seconds earlier on, so losing just over a tenth over the last couple of laps.
They were fairly closely banded together their last time crossing the stripe. So Carrasquedo proving that he's a cut above the rest right now. Obviously, with the opportunity of starting on reverse pole, it's now allowed him to continue onwards in a bid to become only the second driver to take multiple wins this season, with 2 of them all coming here at this MISANO circuit, as now Diego Della Torre sweeps through towards Caro. No move yet for Famolaro.
Oh, don't say that too quickly, because Della Torre was very defensive to the inside of Curva del Caro, and I thought for a moment there Famolaro had the overlap on the Mexican, but Della Torre is suddenly thinking a lot more about what's in his mirrors, isn't he?
Yeah, certainly keeping his shields up, and for good reason. There's a podium on the line here. Famolaro is aware of that as much as everybody else.
Della Torre, who's been on the podium 4 times before this weekend, fighting for his first podium here in Misano. Famolaro, who has been on the podium 3 times already this year. More often than not, you find these guys fitting in behind Rui Heng-Ye, who was utterly dominant in the first 2 meetings of the season, but his reign has since ended here in Misano, a circuit that we were questioning how well a lot of these guys were going to go around here, because some of them had never raced around here before, and well, then you have Javier Herrera, who'd never raced here and won race 2 this morning, or race 1 yesterday, I should say. As look at that battle for 3rd place now, closing up once again, and Della Torre trying to break the toe out of turn 10 into Curvone, the first flat-out right-hander, and Famolaro right on his wheel tracks. I'm sure that flat spot on his front right tyre will be felt at this point.
Oh,
and Herrera taking the opportunity on the inside to try and get around his teammate, but not able to usurp him.
No, he tried through the final sector, trying to take advantage of Famolaro, perhaps focusing on Diego Della Torre. This is exactly what can happen. Another uncomfortable run for Rui Heng-Ye coming out of Misano at turn 16.
He's really been struggling with that corner all weekend, hasn't he?
He certainly has, because it's not the first time we've seen him go astray out there. But I think this is just him just trying to find every ounce of power in his Dallara 324. Obviously with the Tom's TGE33 engine that they've got underneath them, with the Cosworth electronic systems as well, that make up this fabulous machine that allows us to witness some great single-seater racing, providing these drivers with a grand foothold ahead for the trips up the realm of FIA Formula 3 and FIA Formula 2.
Herrera's looking much closer to Famolaro now, isn't he? Down the back straight, just over half a kilometre long, heading into the Quecha corner. Thought for a moment he was going to have a dive there on his teammate, but it's 5.5 laps to go. Opportunities are starting to wear thin for these guys that are now 6 seconds behind Everett Stack in 2nd position. And again, Della Torre straight away moving over to the right-hand side, but Famolaro not following him this time. I think he might want to, because he's got Herrera right behind him. So he pulls out to the right-hand side, does have an overlap this time, bails out of it before they get into the kink at 13. So hard to actually make that. You have to properly dive into Curva del Caro, don't you? Because trying to fit 2 cars side by side through the not quite so flat out kink at turn 13, more often than not, you need a compliant rival who will run off the circuit for you.
I was going to say, I mean, I don't think Herrera was convinced enough that Famolaro was going to give him the clairvoyance to make the move stick. Obviously, Famolaro is perfectly entitled to defend his position. Obviously, there wasn't anywhere, certainly enough car alongside Famolaro in order to ensure that that move gets carried out. So, obviously, it's Herrera's responsibility to back out of it, avoid committing to the overtake if it isn't on, and that's exactly what he did. But that doesn't mean to say that it might, that he might not be successful the next time around. Obviously, coming down through towards Quecha again, it's Diego Della Torre still leading the group that are fighting over this 3rd place. Obviously, it looks like Carrasquedo is going to walk away with back-to-back P1s, and it's going to be a successful Sunday excursion around the Misano Adriatic circuit here for the Mexican talent, who has long deserved a 25-point visit and eventually got it, but 2 here on day 2 of racing in the Euroformula Open here at Misano. It'll make all the difference as far as his championship is concerned, but needs to follow it up when we head to our next destination.
Here he goes.
Ringen, yes, up the inside from Herrera now, looking to unseat Famularo. Famularo shutting the door again denied is the young Mexican, Javier Herrera, but we still have one more corner. Rui Hengye having another look as well. Is he going to keep tight? No, he's gone wide again. Coming through the final corner is Rui Hengye, really struggling with turn 16.
Fabulous driving from Alessandro Famularo. He's one of the older drivers in the field, but did take a short hiatus in his career due to budget constraints after his Formula Regional campaign was cut short back in 2020 and 2021.
Issues for Divi Nandan as well as Lorenzo Castillo, as they've both fallen foul to Aaron Ferrazzano, who has now just taken P9 as well. So, yeah, more places gained for the Neri Autosport car.
Very nice job done. Their proper skeleton crew for that French squad that is learning an awful lot in its first year in the Euroformula Open Championship. That's certainly a David amongst some Goliaths when you compare the squads to Motorpark and even BVM racing.
Well, that's what we used to call BVM.
Well, I know. I'm not saying BVM are, you know, a small team and punching above the weight, because they are, you know, compared to Motorpark.
But compared to Neri, they are.
Compared to Neri, you'd think it was, you know, the soccer player beating up the nerd at school. Really, it's quite the contrast.
Come on, American football, Chris. You know, soccer players are quite lanky. I think well, maybe more a rugby player or American footballer. They're a little bit more.
I don't know. Yeah, I used to get beat up by the rugby kids all the time. So. I was their ball boy.
Oh yeah, dearie me. But yes, at the moment, Herrera has now dropped away a little bit from his fellow BVM teammate, Alessandro Famularo. 4/10 between the two BVM drivers, so instead Famularo focusing his efforts back on Diego Della Torre. The gap half a second, but that's certainly going to be enough for Della Torre to maintain this third place. We've got 3 laps to go. Rui Hengye really tight to the back of Herrera now as they come through the Quecha corner once again. Till nose to tail, these 4 have been squabbling for the largest portion of this race. It's been a meteoric effort here from Diego Della Torre to maintain this position now, and as you can see, trying to break the toe that is being offered to Famularo, who this time follows Diego Della Torre. And the gap now has developed a little bit between Herrera and, by equal measure, Famularo. And this time, I think Rui Hengye might have a squint of an opportunity here to make the move. Not quite able to do so. Very defensive-minded there from Diego Della Torre. Arguably, probably didn't have to do that because Famularo was a fair ways back. Good distance anyway to protect it, and again an inside defensive manoeuvre from Diego Della Torre as they come out of turn 16.
But you see the difference there with the gap to Herrera growing. Famularo had the confidence to really open up Curva del Carro, and he can start to use some more open lines and put Della Torre under pressure like that, which he can't do when he's got Herrera breathing down his neck, because he knows if he does them, Herrera will try and make the move. We've already seen him try and make the move several times down into turn 14.
I think some of this as well is Diego Della Torre feeding Famularo to Herrera as well at the same time. I think just trying to give him a little bit of respite because he knows it's going to be quite tricky to try and break away from these 3 behind, because at the end of the day, they're just all getting the drag from the Motorpark driver in 3rd place at the moment. But coming out of Quecha again, skipping over the curb, and they will sprint through towards the sequence of right-handers before then tackling the long straight with Elmi Cavone once more. Diego Della Torre in his 2nd campaign of the Euroformula Open Championship with Famularo, who is ever so experienced at this level of single-seater racing, and Herrera, by stark contrast, just really beginning his career as a young 16-year-old with a lot of promise. If anything, you'll learn a lot from this campaign. I'm sure there'll be more to come from the young Mexican who has got Rui Hengye, who also has immense amounts of experience at F3 car level, obviously with his time spent in the FIA Formula Regional European Championship with RPM, who were, of course, a former team that had dominated the Euroformula Open Championship in the past. Nowadays, Motorpark and BVM have since gone on to win championship titles in the modern era of the Euroformula, but we've also had some incredible talents that have climbed the realms of the junior single-seater ladder, including the likes of Felipe Drugovic, Yifei Ye, and then Brad Benavides, Ollie Goethe, and many, many more. Final lap in full swing, though. Carrasquedo bidding to become a two-time race winner this season.
2.8 seconds was his advantage as he started the final lap over Everett Stack, who is going to pick up his first podium of the weekend here, but has had no answer to Carrasquedo. An early attempt on the first couple of laps, keeping the Mexican under pressure, but it's going to be a perfect day for Jesse Carrasquedo, taking both victories here on Sunday, and we'll wait to see if Diego de la Torre can continue to keep Famularo and Herrera and at bay for that last spot on the podium. But wins are like buses in the Euroformula Open Championship. You wait 3 rounds for one, and suddenly 2 come at once. Jesse Carrasquedo through the final corner. It's a perfect Sunday for the Mexican driver as he takes back-to-back victories in the Euroformula Open Championship. The fist out of the cockpit, celebrating that one. And Herrera, I thought for a second, he has gone through on Famularo. It's changed for 4th position on the final lap, but Diego de la Torre completes the podium with Herrera. Late dramas for Divi Nandan. The 55 car struggling with a broken front wing on the final lap. There. So Caddy Baptista over the line in 7th ahead of Dobransky. And then it will be Aaron Ferrazzano in 9th position with Jan Koller completing the top 10. Divi Nandan down the back of the grid in the end. But Jesse Carrasquedo, 2.5 seconds clear of the rest of the field. And the front wing is already broken for Divi Nandan there. And Lorenzo Castillo trying to pounce and pushing poor Divi Nandan, who's already limping into the gravel there. But I wonder how that front wing ended up becoming broken. But the day is all about Jesse Carrasquedo. Took his first victory in the championship this morning. He is now a 2-time winner, only the 2nd driver this season to take multiple victories in the Euroformula Open Championship. So Jesse Carrasquedo, your top driver in race 3, with Everett Stack in 2nd position, his first podium of the weekend, with Diego de la Torre also on the podium for the first time here in Misano. Javier Herrera, 4th position on the last lap, and your top rookie class driver pipping his BBM Racing teammate Alessandro Famularo, with Rui Hengye in 6th, Caddy Baptista in 7th, Victor Dobransky, Aaron Ferrazzano, Jan Koller, your top 10, with Lorenzo Castillo in 11th, and Divi Nandan, last car over the line with a broken front wing in the end. 65 points now, the gap between Rui Hengye and Diego de la Torre, with Everett Stack now coming under increasing pressure from Jesse Carrasquedo in the championship as the Mexican moves up to 4th in the standings ahead of Alessandro Famularo. Well, it was a cool celebration for Carrasquedo after race 2. Let's see what he's got in store for us. The cockpit celebrations are something we've come to anticipate here in the championship, and he goes for a classic.
Absolutely right. Jesse Carrasquedo now becoming only the 2nd driver to take multiple wins this season. And of course, that has a bit of work to do to catch up with Rui Hengye, but 2 is not a bad place to start. Plenty of rounds left in the championship. We've got Hungaroring now coming up next in a matter of weeks. And then Paul Ricard, Hockenheim, Monza and Barcelona, the grand finale to follow. So plenty of races for him to prove himself. The championship far from over just yet. And, it's great because it means that we've got quite a few players. Some happiness and smiles there from the Motorpark team as Carrasquedo walks off to go and get himself weighed in. Brilliant performance. And met with connections as well. Everett Stack, I think, obviously will just take this for now. Will be standing on the podium once again. Has enjoyed his fair share already. He's just missing that 1 number, and that's the number 1. Just needs the victory to complete the set, really, as now Diego de la Torre stands on the podium. I mean, it was a hard-fought defense from the Mexican as well. Plenty of candidates were looking to take him down towards the end of the race.
Certainly were. Some good defensive driving from de la Torre, who still holds 2nd in the championship now. The gap to Rui Hengye starting to come down after a difficult weekend for Rui Hengye. In fact, that is his worst finish of the season there for Rui Hengye in 6th position. Says an awful lot about his season so far, doesn't it? 3rd position goes to Diego Della Torre, his first podium of the weekend, but his 5th of the season for Team Motorpark. Everett Stack also making his first appearance on the rostrum here in Misano with a 2nd place finish. But the winner for the 2nd time today, it is Jesse Carrasquillo. No wins before today, 2 now. He's with Alfredo.
Jesse Carrasquillo, the day is perfect. So 2nd win, how you feel?
Very grateful. I think, as I said, it's been quite tough first 2 rounds because of external reasons. So now that I think all the external was good, I think internally we executed. So I'm quite happy with myself. I did everything I could. I drove as perfect as I could, and yeah, I cannot do better. I think it's good.
And probably you see yourself in the fight for the rest of the season.
Yeah. There's still, I think, 6 rounds. I think we have a lot of points to catch up, especially from Portimao after those 3 stalls or 2 stalls. So, yeah, good.
Well, the good thing is that
Yes.
we are on the rise.
Yes.
Well done.
Thank you so much.
Vamos.
Let's look back at race 3 as Jesse Carrasquillo started from reverse grid pole. Rui Hengye having to come up from the rear of the field after stalling on the formation lap. Everett Stack making a charge into the first corner. First of all passing Famolaro and then passing Diego Della Torre as well, who also made his way past the Venezuelan driver into the first corner. Famolaro was the meat in a Motorpark sandwich, attempted to retake the place down into turn 4, but decided better of it. Spend the majority of the race looking at the back of Della Torre's car. A clean first lap, though, as the drivers made their way through, and Rui Hengye made up places as he charged back up from the rear of the field, passing Cadi Baptista there into turn 8, the Quercia corner. And then the battle for the last spot on the podium would kick off. Diego Della Torre keeping Alessandro Famolaro at bay for the majority of the race. Despite that lock up there for Famolaro, he wasn't perturbed by that one and would continue his pursuit of 3rd position, keeping his race-winning teammate at bay. Rui Hengye was briefly in 3rd position out of, in 5th position out of turn 2, but Javier Herrera fought back. Jesse Carrasquillo was completely unchallenged at the head of the field, cruising his way to the finish after taking his first victory of the season in race 2 on Sunday morning. He makes it 2 out of 2 on the Sunday here in Misano, and back-to-back victories in the Euroformula Open Championship. And now to the podium with Diego Della Torre on the right, Everett Stack on the left, both of them making their first appearance on the podium here this weekend. But now S.A. Carrasquillo joins them, and for the 2nd time this weekend climbs to the top step of the podium. They will be joined by the Team Motorpark representative, and I think for the first time this weekend we have to have our rookie class winner actually join them on the podium because they didn't finish on the overall podium. So Javier Herrera does still get to make a brief appearance on the podium here, but for the 2nd time this weekend, or the 3rd time, it's the Mexican national anthem.
Un applauso al podio.
I think we're going to go out and buy some sombreros after this weekend. The Mexican national anthem ringing out on all 3 races here in the Euroformula Open Championship.
Yeah, strong visit for the Mexican contingent. Of course, they do make up a good number of our grid members this campaign. But, the P2 trophy presented to Everett Stack, the Virginian, tasting yet further success. That just needs one more, just needs the victory, the elusive one is yet to come his way. Carrasquillo, though, taking 2, breaking his duct in great style. Credit to Diego Della Torre for his defensive drive at the same time, keeping hold of that third place trophy. Rookie trophy will be presented, well, first of all, team's trophy will be presented to the Motor Park team, growing a mighty collection. And the winning rookie was Javier Herrera. More to come for this young man. As I said, on a voyage of discovery, he's discovered plenty already, just like they're about to discover Hungaroring very soon.
Yes, that concludes a first ever visit to Misano for the Euroformula Open Championship as the drivers pose for the obligatory photographs. Had a fantastic weekend here in Misano. We're back in action in a month's time on the 4th of July in Budapest at the Hungaroring. So from myself, Chris Stevens, George Morgan alongside me, and all of us at the GT Sport organisation, thank you very much for watching. We'll see you in Budapest.